All right, welcome back, Algebra 2. We are looking at 4.3 today, which is on solving a quadratic equation, but by factoring. So, first thing I want you to do is just a little warm up here. Go through these 4 or 5 questions. You can pause the video and see what you can do here. Okay, so for each one of these, I'm just going to go ahead and give you the answer because we've already gone through this and this is some review. So number 1, when you multiply this together, you should have gotten m squared. This would be minus 16m plus 64 would be your final. For number 2, you'd have z squared minus 4z minus 60 for an answer. Number 3, you would have y squared and then minus 400 for an answer. Number 4, remember this one you'd have to write x minus 14 twice. And then when you multiply that out, you'd have x squared minus 28x and then plus 196 for that last one. Number 5 was just like 4.1. So it says, what is the maximum value of this function? And when we see this, first of all, we're going to recognize that this is in standard form. And if it's in standard form, we're going to start with figuring out what is negative b over 2a. Because the maximum value is going to be asking us for basically finding the vertex of this parabola. By looking at this a value, we should know that we're going to have a parabola that opens down like this, and therefore it's going to have a high point or a maximum. And so since it's in standard form, we're going to start with negative b over 2a, and so this would be negative 5, because b is 5, divided by 2 times a. A is negative 2. So in this case, we have negative 5 over negative 4, which is just positive 5 over 4, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Now that's the x value of the vertex. So if we were finding the vertex is a point, the x value of the vertex is 5/4, or 1.25. That's also called the axis of symmetry. Now if we want to actually find the y value, or the actual max value, or the height, then we have to take that 5/4 and we'd have to plug it back into the function. So we'd have to go and plug in for x. So we'd have negative 2 times, we'd have 5/4 here, squared, plus 5 times 5/4, and then plus 21. So if we go ahead and plug that into our calculator, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do it here. Negative 2 times 5/4 squared plus 5 times 5/4 plus 21. And I got 24 and an eighth, 24.125. So the y value here is 24.125. So I could say the vertex is this. It's 5/4, or 1.25 comma 24.125. When it's saying what is the maximum value, so first of all I could say this right here, this is the vertex, but the maximum value is only the y value. So we could say, to answer this question correctly, we have a maximum, and the maximum is 24.125. So that's how high this parabola would get. It would get as high as 24.125. All right, so continuing on, some terminology that we want to understand and review before we get into the lesson is, number 1, a monomial. So a monomial is an expression that is either a number, a variable, or the product of a number and one or more variables. So like 4 or x or 4x, that's a monomial. And then basically The next one here is a binomial. So that prefix bi means two, and so a binomial is the sum of two monomials. Sometimes we just call those monomials just terms, right? So this is the sum of two things, two terms, or two monomials. The third one is a trinomial. So a trinomial is the sum of three monomials, three different things. So for example, if I had, and this should be a square, so I have x squared plus 3x plus 5, that is a trinomial. And the last one here, the solutions of a quadratic equation are called zeros or roots. Zeros or roots of the equation. So those terms will be used as we get into some problems later on.